good morning, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown, and yes, we are live tonight, this morning, and we have a lot to get into. Not just what we saw from the Penguins and the goalie situation that's developing. We'll get into that. We'll also talk about Dave Parker not getting into the Baseball Hall of Fame, but the #1 topic tonight will be the Steelers with another win. They're 7-1 in their last 8 games, and here to talk about it is your panel, left to right on your television screen. Andrew Fillipponi, host of the PM Team. That's every day 2 to 6. Pony and Muller on the Fan, and of course his national radio show. In the middle, Josh Yohe, outstanding beat writer for the Penguins for The Athletic. And to the right, it's Tim Benz, TribLive.com and the DVE Steelers pregame show. So we'll get right into it. 7-1 in their last 8. So Tim Benz, let's look at this and ask yourself the question, is it good enough to get into the playoffs? And once there, do you think this team can actually do some damage in the postseason?
I don't know about doing any damage once they get in. I think they can still scratch their way in. In fact, they should, because they should beat the Jets. They could beat the Bills. I think the Bills' defense, for as good as it is, the offense is that bad, so they could win a 14-13 kind of game next week. I'm about 55% sure that they get in as the last wild card, but Tennessee's still nipping at their heels after such a great run. Shows how huge of a hole they dug themselves, and Tennessee is only a half game behind them in the conference standings, so watch how things go against Houston. But yeah, I mean, this 6 of 7 run that they're on right now is really special, given the circumstances with Duck Hodges at the core.
Bob, I guess I'm a little bit higher on this Steelers team, this win, and what they could be based on the 7 out of 8 that you referenced. I mean, Tim, we just saw what Drew Lock did. Why couldn't the Steelers go in Houston and win a playoff game? Just like Chuck Noll's team did in '89 with a quarterback that wore the number 6. Why not?
They have to go to Foxborough.
Well, that to me.
That could happen. That's my nightmare scenario.
Yeah, but they're falling apart a little bit. I know it's Foxborough.
They could fall back to the Steelers, yeah.
But that matchup has always been hammer against nail, so I wouldn't like it. But there are teams I think the Steelers could beat. I mean, how far off is this defense from, I know this might be like blasphemy, but how much worse is this defense than like the 2015 Broncos that dragged Peyton Manning's carcass to a Super Bowl? Or how about Trent Dilfer in 2000 with the Ravens? Guys, I really think this is the best defense in the NFL right now. The Niners and Patriots have taken a step back, and I think the Steelers actually have the most well-rounded, balanced defense in the entire game.
Well,
and Bob, defense wins championships.
They're #1 in sacks and turnovers now, Andrew, and I don't know if it's quite as good as those two defenses you point out, but I'll say this. I think it's every bit as good as that 2010 team that managed to survive Roethlisberger's suspension at the start of the year. Those 7 games to start that season was as good as I've ever seen a defense play, and this defense, with some of the big play splash potential that they have surpassed that in my mind.
Well, I'll be glass half full here. If you look at the AFC, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are not what they were last season. They're not that dominant of a team. The Houston Texans obviously can be had if you're going to get destroyed at home by the Denver Broncos. And the last time Lamar Jackson looked bad was against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, do I really think the Steelers can go on the road and win 3 straight playoff games with Duck Hodges and this limited offense? No, I do not. Do I think they will make the playoffs? I like their chances right now, especially when you consider the tiebreaker situation and their upcoming schedule. Could they go into a Kansas City or especially Houston and win a game? Yes, they could. And you know what? Just enjoy the ride, Pittsburgh, because this is something absolutely none of us saw happening 2 months ago.
And it's all started because of what's happened at quarterback. You know, Mason Rudolph won 3 in a row at home, and then he gets out of there, and it's Devlin Hodges. I want to ask you guys about him, what we've seen. Going up head-to-head with Baker Mayfield, beats him, #1 overall pick. He does the same today with Kyler Murray. He has better numbers. Next week, he's got another first-round draft book, as he does the rest of the year. So, Andrew, how real is this from him? I think this guy has checked every box they've given him to check. When he gets in there, he makes plays.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's not going to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year, but to me, he's followed every directive in order from his coach. What's Mike Tomlin tell him? Don't kill us. And he didn't again today. There wasn't a bad turnover. There wasn't a head-scratchingly bad blunder. And for a rookie quarterback with a $1,000 signing bonus undrafted, I mean, it's incredible. So he's played to me like an average NFL starting quarterback, and that's like a mouthful. That's an outrageous thing to say, but it's true.
Yeah, I think he's gone from don't kill us to he's keeping them alive, to be honest with you. But that said, I think the Buffalo game next week against a really good defense, one of the few defenses that's been as good or even better at times in some ways than the Steelers over the last 3 weeks, and the Bills, I think that test is so much greater than what we've seen for Hodges against the Browns, Cardinals, and Bengals. I think this is a step up in competition to see, he can get 17, 19, mid-20s. Can he get enough to outlast Buffalo next week?
I was impressed also what he did with his legs today. He made a couple of really nice plays with his legs, scrambling ability, just his overall feel in the pocket. Really impressive for a young guy. He doesn't have the biggest arm in the world, we know that, but he's getting a little bit better each week, and I give him so much credit. It's not like he has exceptional weapons to work with right now on that offense. He really doesn't, and yes, he wasn't playing a great defense.
Josh, you know what it reminds me of a little bit to go to your sport? The moment doesn't seem too big for him. The same way when Matt Murray got thrust in and he was still kind of off people's radar, he never seemed like he was kind of blown away by the situation. And even late in the game when the Steelers are trying to keep the ball and ice the game, Hodges made plays.
Don't you get the feeling Duck Hodges is enjoying this a little bit?
Yes.
In a good way. He was at the Pitt game last week. He was at the Penguins game the night before. He is completely enjoying this moment, and that's a good thing. It's not that he's full of himself or that he's arrogant. You can just tell it's fun for him. I don't think he's taking any of it too seriously. That's probably the right mindset to have. And like I said, he's getting a little bit better every week. I don't know how he will fare against Buffalo, but the Bills don't have a great offense either. It's not like he'll need to put 30 points on the board now.
This is more like Zach Koff taking him to the final than it would have been for Matt Murray.
And Bob, you got to get Cook on the bandwagon tomorrow. That's your job.
I'm not going to get him. He doesn't like his skill level, so that's going to end the conversation. All right, real quick. Speaking of skill levels, what about these wide receivers? I want to get into it, and again, keep comments kind of quick because we have a minute left in this segment. But Josh, when you watch him play, you don't expect Deontay Johnson as a rookie to do some of the things he did today. Now, last week, by comparison, was not a good week. James Washington has had to raise his level of play. And then you got a bunch of guys who have just been dragged in here and they're making plays. What do you talk about when you say wide receivers without Juju Smith-Schuster?
No, it's impressive. Let's start with Deontay. He was really good today. He's been a little off the last couple of weeks. He's made a lot of mental errors. What a game he had today. And you can tell he's going to be a good NFL receiver. He's a great route runner. Washington, by the way, a couple of huge flags drawn on pass interference calls. He's becoming a big play threat.
Yeah, I would probably go number 1, Johnson, number 2, Washington, then who? Number 3, Kane? Maybe? I mean, is that where we're going with this? I would love to throw a tight end in there, but this is one of the worst teams in football defending the tight ends. The tight ends didn't do much today, so I'll probably have to go in that order without Juju.
Bob, the A.B. Johnson comparisons just continue, right? When he was drafted, the size, the math, the route running, and the punt return. I think he's got a huge future in this league. I could see him as an all-pro wide receiver down the line.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about one of the calls that was made that was not a popular one, and it blew up in their faces. We'll get into that and look ahead to Buffalo a little bit. But first, if you like to enjoy the game from the comfort of your couch, which a lot of people do, then you're going to love this, because with Expressway at Cochran.com, you can buy a car from your couch right there. Expressway lets you do complete some, most, or all of the buying process online and spend less time or no time at all in the showroom. That's right, they're even offer home delivery at no extra charge. You can't miss with this. So buy a car the next way. Do it at Expressway, Cochran.com. We're back right after this. The #1 Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by #1 Cochran. Go one better. And by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health.